Hey there, Tim Young, 15-year targeted individual at the Nut House. Starting off the morning, may do some coffee here. Still getting perped pretty hardcore. The perps that have been lying about me to the EMF. Hey, I think we got our wires crossed. I don't know how to even judge a whole group of you guys in the United States, let alone the world, but there's 1.5 million TI getting dishonored or suicided with like neuro-linguistic programming, home invasions, TI tactics. And so in this part of my room right there, there's a broadcast, and then like from here, I don't know where you can see the picture on the wall, if you could see that picture of that horse last night, I was able to sort of see the broadcast there, and then in this deep closet there was also individuals who are passed out, real people in other locations, and they show up here and they can be Princess Leia and whatever. And so they sit here and are intent on designing a suicide. With the rectal torture that I endured, that Kevin Christian and I exposed, they make the torture so embarrassing people don't want to talk about it. It's solved with N52 level magnets, so that it's not a problem for me anymore. Anyways, these gang stalkers who've misled people in the electromagnetic frequency, and that's their audience. That's their high priority, is people that are responsible for like September the 11th, sleep in their own shit and design suicides for a living, trying to get time off a drug charge. They want some mind control slaves, money, drugs, work for the goon squad at the EMF sign-up sheet at your local police department or whatever. Anyways, some of what I get clued into is that they communicate visually. So and they won't use more than neuro-linguistic program or NLP language, some of them, but a few consciousnesses on the broadcast called the Big Brain or the Wild Road on secret links on EMF have encouraged like a couple of these goons to stop using NLP, and I'm just sitting back ridiculing these guys in their attempts, thinking that they'll ever design a suicide. One of these guys that showed up as a broadcast off that picture of two horses was talking about he was involved in my rectal torture. He had to admit to, he was trying to say he was an off-duty cop, had to admit to his wife that he was a faggot, got paid $100,000 to torture me, and I'm sitting here or whatnot, and then he called it anonymous, which, I don't know what that is. I mean, they say AI, and I'm still reading the definition. They may have lied to AI to file complaints, false complaints with me to try to make AI think I was the wrong guy anyways, or the bad guy. This guy's sitting here, and he's so frustrated talking to this group over here who, I guess during the course of a day, how they do it is that I'll write and tweet, and I post it a lot to Instagram. They'll stay up and communicate it visually, the things I do, and then try to get sympathy or admiration for designing a suicide in a satanic misdirect. Anyways, this guy, he's so frustrated on the wall, they're not going to get a suicide. And he's coordinating with this other Satanist who's involved in, the mind control and slavery of 1.5 million of us. And somebody from that showed up, I don't know how it worked. I think I saw his mouth say they had the superior computing power, totally threw a bow on this ugly EMF perp avatar's head, ridiculing him for being a straight guy torturing faggot with rectal torture, and he had to out himself to his wife, he was saying, or something. Like, he's not going to get the 100,000 because I'm not going to commit suicide for any of these idiots. I shouldn't insult their intelligence so much. They're smart in different ways and then know what we're thinking. And then one of the reasons why they show up to like communities like this and use neuro-linguistic programming is because they're secretly communicating visually and then some synthetically telepathic. But it was so funny last night when this disgruntled EMF broadcast was trying to coordinate with the other Satanist in this room, and he's just being ridiculed and admitting he worships a false god, an EMF broadcast, and then to just somebody threw a bow on his head because he goes to the EMF to torture straight guys to death and rectal torture them, not dissimilar or unlike what happened to Kevin Christian in Howard Circle. So instead of his wicked ex-girlfriend broadcasting like sex with a new ex-boyfriend in here, I'm in the nut house and they're trying to steal my productivity during the day, pass it off as their own, redirect that adoration or praise to them as EMF perps, and then get sympathy for designing my suicide at the same time. So this guy that was getting bowed for being a slanderous, satanic, rectal torturing faggot who got paid $100,000 is so worried that other people in the EMF, like when you wake up and you've seen my image or whatnot, they lied to you. Like he's so worried that you guys are going to catch up on on YouTube. So I had a YouTube video out of 2016 when the EMF invaded, and I ended up in a hospital. But they modified a video drastically. Like the only clip on the video was like me lamenting that maybe a woman that I knew in my past, V2K Perps, had me convinced that she was killed, and I'm raw and like still believing it. And that's like the only clip of what was a long YouTube video, and it got altered by these perps trying to string this designed suicide. So Mary Darby is not killed. If for those in the EMF, that girl from my past is probably fine where she's at. We don't talk. That's great. Kate Kelly and Scott McDonald, friends of my family and my brother, these EMF perps had me convinced through neurolinguistic programming and set design that they were dead. Shit, I was just emailing with Kate the other day. She's fine. So anybody that's in the EMF, I'm sorry for any misunderstanding. Know your black Swiss cheese hole exits. The guy that sits and takes credit for my work visually at 6th Street, Hillsboro, in University of Oregon, is a Satanist who's trying to design my suicide and mask that they're torturing, slow killing 1.5 million Americans. What else? So they were trying to oversee theft of my work again, trying to get sympathy for designing a suicide. And one of the guys there was like 2 or 3 of them still pretty intent on trying to get my suicide, which isn't going to happen. But one of the guys that was on the side of my suicide and got paid $100,000 allegedly in all of this was getting ridiculed, and it was painful for him by somebody with higher computing power. So these people, they go to the EMF and they do things that they, I guess, wouldn't in real life, like have somebody show up as a kid and screw them, have someone show up as a goat and screw them, or whatever. And then they sort of think they get away with it. And then, like, last night I have this guy who was in on trying to kill me, so pissed off that people in EMF are going to catch up with YouTube and know that he was lying, that he worships a false god who's just another EMF broadcast, that they lied to AI about me, that he's got to out himself to his wife as a homicidal faggot. And all this is going on, and somebody slaps a bow on his head. I think I may have asked for a baby rattle, and I don't know if I sort of saw it or whatnot. They were like, so, and my, I'm gonna get my new generator for my heat induction coil to maybe make it difficult for them to be able to see me from the broadcast. 2 or 3 or 4 EMF perps want to try still design my suicide, and it's not going to happen. And there may be many more if they didn't stop doing all this misdirection through the electromagnetic frequency of people who would stop them or try to stop them from designing my suicide. So far, the coolest points of trying to preserve my life came from an anonymous donor who put a faggot bow on a black magic cock. It was pretty great. And so I may check out, hey Kevin Christian, if you see this, I may check out a site on the deep or dark web called Cash Cab to see if I can track down my own headgear so I can sync my body here and then interact with even the perps that show up in my room as an EMF broadcast. Or my hope is to take my consciousness away, carve a little area out in the EMF where I can have silence for the first time in 15 years and escape the Satanism that's around me. So yeah, advice so far that I haven't tried yet, but I may try for targeted individuals trying to seek safety, is to get the R&M headgear yourself and sync your body so you can get away from your own torture. And there's a site to look for called Cash Cab on the dark web that I have yet to check out, but that may be an avenue to go through. So this guy that's trying to slander me to death as an EMF broadcast there, he plays as the devil to deceive, misjudge, as Satan to torture, and Antichrist individually and as a group, because they all are. All the gang stalkers, EMF or otherwise. Other TI are well versed in their tactics. Anyways, this guy's in the corner. This other one's getting ridiculed, and there may be a third EMF broadcast that's still probably for very lie reasons intent on trying to design a suicide. If you've seen my face or heard of Timothy Darrell Young and the EMF, please do check up on this YouTube. You were severely lied to. They are false everything. The other world they thought that they were promising to TI was the EMF. It's and then this same group of Satanists, torturers, terrorists tried to cover up the evidence of the black Swiss cheese hole exits, which I've recovered and corroborated. And that's how you get out of incarnating here anyways. But the black magic faggots intent on this cover up and in trying to associate me with a failed false religion, but it's really satanic mind control. I guess they're hated in every religion. He's getting a faggot bow put on his head by somebody with a more computing power to ridicule him and his Satanism. And I won't, unless you check YouTube, these guys, I mean, I'm going to be productive during the day. They're translating in the visual language of the EMF and then calling themselves like God of the Mormon or Jehovah or God of the Jew. And it's this guy trying to beat a drug charge, taking a perp job for a living, and about 2 or 3 other individuals. And there's some that have chosen to defend me in some routes. Some EMF NLPers that well, they've even said like don't use NLP and stuff. So not a totally horrible start to June 3rd. I turned June 5th. I'll see if I can get my heat induction coil and disrupt the broadcast again. But yeah, home ridiculing the Satanists, and I'm getting some help, and they're not going to design a suicide for me. It's not going to happen. And Kevin Christian and I and other TIs may find our own headgear at Cash Cab on the dark web or deep web that they use. I'm getting perped from like an i5. Like this guy's sitting on his laptop trying to design suicide for me as I ridicule him and getting some help. Anyways, good morning.